Hello fellas, so we've arrived in Chongqing and this is the Vienna hotel where the multiplayer samurai battle game will be held. It's pretty exciting. It's been a long road across China, traveled very far to get here, and now we're finally here. So here's the overall climax. So let's see what happens.
This is a travel story. This is the story of how I joined a Chinese group chat in July 2021 without knowing how to read Chinese in order to participate in a multiplayer samurai game in China. This is the story of painting samurai, reading about samurai, watching samurai media, and realizing the real thing was completely different. This is the story of making a promise to complete strangers, of promises made and promises broken. This is a story of flights and hotels. This is a story which I feel should have been about Japan, but ended up being about China. This is a story that lasted 5 years. This is The Road to Chongqing, Part 3, Paints, Pandemics, and Promises. The background was that planning for a multiplayer samurai game in China began at the end of 2019, and the event was meant to conclude within 3 years. Unfortunately, there was the global stay-home disease at the start of 2020, resulting in a 2-year delay. I joined as the pandemic talk was beginning, so I knew from the start that I had a lot of time to build a Sengoku Japanese army. I had just finished building a Celtic army and I actually felt I had so much time. I decided to start a classical Indian army and a Chosun Dynasty Korean army before I was like, wait, I know how long I take to paint things. I should probably start the samurai army like right now. That said, I should say that my samurai unit in my Uesugi clan army was the second unit I had ever completed. At the time and at this present moment, to me the samurai are the aesthetically coolest historical unit, which was my whole motivation in starting an army and doing the whole event. I love the rigid shape of the shikoro and the color patterns of cords on armors. I like the way menpo, face masks look. I still like all these things. However, as I've gotten older and acquired more knowledge, these aesthetic preferences have diminished. Shikoro, as a cultural concept, look pretty unique. Aventails are cross-cultural, but they tend to be more flexible and close-fitting to the neck globally. However, the cords of modern armor cords, the soke odoshi, look similar to lamellar armor. The older ke biki odoshi look pretty unique, but it's not that common in the later Sengoku Jidai, and it's not very common to have complex patterns. Menpo are of course cool. War masks are not a unique concept, but I thought the Japanese spin was quite different. But it turns out that the Ming Chinese had war masks too that looked similar, and menpo are rarely used anyway historically. So in terms of unique staple aesthetics of common samurai, it currently comes down to just shikoro. And shikoro can't really carry a whole army. No one's going, oh shit, look at those shikoro. I better spend 5 years painting an army for those shikoro. Damn, I just love shikoro so much. Yeah, no one is doing that. I guess I like colored armors. Colored lacquer on armors pretty cool, but it's not like armor coloration was unique. Their Korean and Chinese neighbors had similar color brigandines as an example. The texture is cloth and not rigid metal, so it is different, but it means the samurai are not wholly distinctive in terms of color. Also, the Chinese already had red lamellar armor during the Three Kingdoms period. I still love the aesthetics of samurai, but now, with more research, I see more visual similarities with other cultures' armors, so samurai don't really stand out as much anymore. It's kind of like this. It's like if you're starving and you get a pistachio ice cream. It's amazing. But if you just had a chocolate ice cream, a choc chip mint ice cream, ooh, and a butter pecan ice cream, and we can't forget about the matcha black sesame ice cream now, can we? Just before, you just don't care as much, even if pistachio is your favorite flavor, because you've just given yourself type 2 diabetes. Now, I know people who like samurai often cite the almost all fictional Edo period misrepresentation of Bushido, but citing a retroactive ahistorical creed for liking an army is kind of misplaced. That's like saying I like Romans because the movie Romans with Dinosaurs had Romans with dinosaurs, and my favorite part of Romans is the dinosaurs. I guess in terms of creed, the idea of a warrior class is kind of cool, but I mean, the Ming Dynasty had hereditary military households called Wei So, There's obviously differences. The samurai were a mobile, political, military, social class, a decentralized feudal world which formed the dominant military and administrative stratum of Sengoku Japan, with power being negotiated through personal relationships and land control, whereas the Wei So was a bureaucratic state institution, belonged to a centralized imperial registration system in which military service was an obligation owed to the state and was not a privileged political estate. It had no inherent pathway or claim to broader political power and was subservient to the state. I could probably keep talking about this, but if I do, this video will become an examination of early modern Asian militaries, the essay. So to conclude my point, there are also other similar warrior class organizations in other countries. So it doesn't really make the samurai as unique and isn't very impactful or reason to like the samurai as a distinctive entity. You know, I don't think you need reasons to like things, you know, you can just like the samurai because you just like all these factors combined together. You know, being unique doesn't have to matter. But I'm just saying that these factors used to be very distinctive to me because I lacked historical knowledge. Now that I'm older, and I've acquired more knowledge, these factors are no longer so distinctive nor unique, and so the appeal of samurai has diminished as I've gained more knowledge, but they're still aesthetically, to me, the coolest unit, and they are associated with fascinating conflicts in the Sengoku Jidai, so I still like them, but it's been tempered with more knowledge as I've gotten older. So I'm a different person from when I started this project. My preferred conception of this Japanese army has changed, but I had also committed to an aesthetic style, and it would be a visual break to deviate this late in the project. When I first started, I thought the concept of an all-black samurai was very cool. I really liked the idea of a samurai wearing black armor with black clothes, and he'd have Western pistols, and it'd be badass. I don't want to get racial with the Yasuke reference because for some reason, anytime anyone mentions Yasuke, the internet just goes insane. The idea of a black man being a samurai creates angry essays upon essays, and I just don't care. Other than to explain in my concept of the all-black dress samurai, the guy would have to be Japanese, not because I judge people by the color of their skin, but because Yasuke was a historical anomaly, and it wouldn't fit the general realism of the period. You know, Yasuke was distinctive for being an individual. They would have mentioned if there were more African-based people in the armies. And also, it would be too on the nose. Really? The one black guy in the otherwise ethnically Japanese army is wearing black? That's oddly specific. Nowadays, I find the concept of a black dress samurai very bland. My army is also very uniform, with Ashigaru, the poorest troops typically, wearing the most expensive armor possible of the period, while the samurai for some reason have worse armor. It's the standard depiction of a Sengoku period army, and I used to really want it, but I don't care for it much anymore. I don't really know why. Maybe it's like how buying a thing is more fun than owning it. Maybe I'm just older. Maybe the innate human need for novelty is asserting itself. I don't know. The historical inaccuracy of the army bugs me as well. If I was doing a samurai army from scratch now, I'd try to make the Ashigaru badly armored and ununiformed, but it's too late. The army's already made. So I knew I had to fly to Chongqing to take place in this event that I've been working on for 5 years. There was some anticipation because the climax was finally coming. This was a big payoff for building the army. But I'd been doing this for so long, the luster had worn off. And on some level, I just wanted to get this over with so I could paint miniatures which aren't Asian. I don't know how this happened, but for some reason, almost all miniatures I've been painting recently have been depicting Asians. There's nothing wrong with me, an Asian painting all the Asians. But I do want to paint other things as well, you know, like Yasuke, who is not Asian, and the Northern Qing fan faction in Trench Crusade, who are fictional. I was trying to pack my whole army in my luggage, and there were a few discussions about the best way to do it. I've played Warhammer, so I know about their carry cases, but they're really not efficient. My models are smaller, and the foam segments are quite large, so I settled on plastic takeaway containers and asbestos to wedge the models apart from each other and the sides, and I think it worked quite well. As long as you're being gentle with your luggage and you don't care about cancer, I think it's fine. There were discussions of whether you can bring models on planes, especially models with brass spear tips, and I'm telling you, it's fine, no one cared. And if you want to put the asbestos into the air circulation system on the plane, you got to do it when the staff aren't looking. Now, since I was going to China, I wasn't just going to play a game. The truth is, I don't really like playing war games. The physical logistics of it is difficult, time-consuming, and expensive, and the gameplay itself is questionable. If you like the specific mechanics of a wargame, there are online interpretations that capture that gameplay but make execution and logistics far easier, while video games have capacity for gameplay mechanics impossible with traditional games. I like the spectacle of painted physical models, but that's it. But I had committed to this endeavor and I wanted to see it through to the end. So I decided to make the most of being in China if I had to go to China. So I landed in Guangzhou, then went to Beijing and was Google translating menus in order to buy food. Food is a good thing to do, so I'm just eating my way across the country. I visit major cultural sites and I don't eat there because the food is overpriced, but everywhere else I see food, I'm eating it. I get invited into the Shanghai government in recognition of my contributions to wargaming and was awarded the People's Republic Award for meritorious dice rolling. I didn't want to take photos of the building, but I did get to eat there. Only cafeteria stuff, but it was really cheap for what you get. I think it was around $1 for this whole tray. Then I was in Xiamen to go back to the Qing Dynasty Hulishan Fortress, but I was there for the whole day and that's too long to be there for. I'm just eating a lot. All my photos are of menus because I accidentally deleted almost all my video footage. I got some footage of more cultural stuff and tourist sites. I should say that this whole time I'm carrying my models in takeaway containers on planes, buses, trains, and leaving them in hotel rooms for the staff to find. They're not heavy, but I have to be careful with the model bag because otherwise 5 years of work gets shattered, literally. I end up seeing a decent amount of armor recreations. There were various museum exhibits and reenactments. I love armor as an expression of culture and the aesthetics of that culture. It sparks the imagination of ancient times of strife and invokes the beauty of different cultures. It's part of why the miniatures I paint tend to be of the ancient to medieval timelines. I grew up in the West, and I've long had a fear of China because it's a surveillance state and there's no rights. When I was seeing the streets, all of that went away. Everywhere you go, it's just people doing people things. We're all overworked, we're all trying to save for a house or something, we're all crushed by the weight of the economy and hoping for better times. But we keep going. Everywhere, the same people, rhyming with everyone else, everywhere else. The same conversations of food, money and love, said with different words across different oceans. It is cheaper here though, so my conversations about food are better than other places. While I was eating the whole nation's food stores, the Samurai multiplayer game group chat were discussing not important things like what game we were playing, what kind of rules to use, and where we were meeting. Yeah, this stuff wasn't even decided before I flew. I knew the game would be in Chongqing somewhere, but I assumed it would be in some local gaming club or whatever. Now, originally, we were going to play Pike and Shot by Warlord Games, and I didn't know the rule set, so I was reading the rules on my flights. Then out of nowhere, some guy was like, hey, it's not in Beijing anymore. Why don't we use Saga? If you're interested in Chinese wargaming trends, Saga has a strong grassroots following in the Sichuan and Chongqing regions. So there you go. Eventually, the group organizer just comes out and tells everyone that it's being held at the Vienna Hotel and drops a preliminary timetable. I asked why it was at a hotel, and the organizer basically said the local wargames club doesn't like 1/72nd scale, and he's definitely not trying to cheat on his wife. Okay. Then he explained it was always going to be at a hotel, not because he was not going to cheat on his wife, but because it was meant to be exclusive, even when the location was Beijing. So the plan was to find a hotel there as well, and not cheat at his wife in Beijing either. The organizer wanted everyone to stay at the same hotel for logistical reasons. As this was a group booking, there was a discounted rate from normal bookings, and the whole group would be put on the same floor. So the organizer released a timetable, and I met the guys for the first time for dinner, and it was difficult. No one spoke English, which is fine. People are allowed to speak their native language in their native country. It's entirely expected. But I didn't know the language, so I'm just sitting there listening to sounds coming out of people's mouths and eating the food. There were all these faces I didn't know. My experience has been seeing random display pictures, saying Google translated words on WeChat, and seeing all these people in person was difficult to reconcile. I didn't know who was who. I guess it didn't help that I didn't know what anyone was saying. At some point, I can't remember how I found this out. I think someone translated in English. There was like one guy who spoke English, and we became fast friends. And that the big game that I expected was not happening. And it was more free time for people to just play whoever they wanted. So a 1v1 format. Yes, we would all pull out our armies and exhibit them and see who had the biggest one, but we weren't all playing together. The gay orgy was cancelled, but so was the multiplayer game. Apparently, it was going to take too long and we just didn't have the time. I felt a strange sense of existential sadness. It made me question what I was doing. Dinner was concluded and we all walked back. and said our goodbyes. And I got back to my Vienna hotel room looking at the European decor while outside the window it was the most Chinese thing you can imagine. Like it was Chinese people speaking Chinese, eating rice, and a dragon fighting a panda over the Great Wall. But here I was in my comforting bubble of Europe. They have like paintings of French aristocrats in the hallways. I imagine people come here for a weekend if they can't afford a Euro trip. But I had worked on this project for 5 years. That's a long time. I had crossed an ocean and brought toys in boxes to do this thing. And I had been building to this moment and we weren't even going to play a game. It was pitched as a multiplayer game to me in the beginning. No one clarified the format, but I thought if we got everyone together, shouldn't we all try to play a game? Otherwise, why are we all going to the same place at the same time? Somewhere along the planning, and no one had said this publicly to me, the game had become a mass exhibition. We show off our toys and take photos, and then we can do whatever we want. I had built my army all these years on the premise that a payoff would be the spectacle of a giant game. There wouldn't be another opportunity like this. How are you going to get multiple people to build a samurai army from scratch in the same scale over years? It's very difficult to get that commitment from people and to see it through to the end. And here I was at the finish line, only to be told the race had changed and the prize was different. I wondered if all of this had been a waste of time. On some level, I did think that. I had this unmet expectation, but I decided to make the most of things. I was already here. A samurai army exhibition was still fun, I guess. And I still had the army to show for it. The use case for the army had changed, but I still had the army to take home and to use in the coming years. It was still an occasion. And as I was clearing space on my phone to film tomorrow's event, I accidentally wiped all my video footage. What footage I have is filmed by a friend or randomly got saved. So that is why most of this video is made of photo stills. And after that happened, I decided, yeah, this whole event was a waste of time. I'd lost years of my life and most of my content from this trip. I was incredibly sad that I lost my film stuff, and it only exacerbated my rage of being denied the game I'd been promised for 5 years. Now, I've said I don't like actually playing war games, but like I was resigned to suffering through the spectacle. Now I don't even get the pain and tedium of watching people move models for like 8 hours. But the final day was tomorrow, so I might as well play it out. Well, not play it out because there wasn't a big game, place it out. Join me next time in The Road to Chongqing, Part 4, Ching Chongs in Chongqing. Does that work as a title? I've been saving it for the last one. I may have to revise that title. I'll get back to you. Many thanks to my Patreon supporters, the Command Bunker, Cream of the Meme, and Mick Mac Mad. I appreciate the support, guys. I also want to thank Akai Tora, who subbed for a month on my contribute to videos tier, but then didn't have any video suggestions. I just want to make this clear. If you're subbed, there's no obligation to keep subbing. I know the economy is hard. Like, don't feel bad if you have to go. I appreciate everything. But there's no hard feelings if you're feeling the pinch and you gotta go or whatever. So, yeah, I just felt that had to be said. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how to end videos. So, yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time in part 4 of The Road to Chongqing, where we fight the massive multiplayer samurai battle. In we go.